As we're talking about this now, there is a narrative that's taking place, and even some question of what's real, what's not. AI is the moment we are in, right? I'm curious as to when you look at your team and your culture and the way that you think about product, how is AI enhancing that? How is it redefining it? How are you thinking about it? I want to think first, how are you thinking about it as a product practice, as a culture, as an organization? How are you thinking about applying or using or avoiding AI as a tool in your tool chest right now?
Yeah, so I'm going to have a curious mix of input here
Love it.
because a fair amount of what we're doing is close enough to the vest that I'm going to talk around it.
Totally
Because
understandable.
I'm not trying to say competitors pay close attention to what we say publicly, but
Yep. Yep.
I'd rather not find out. So let's start with something that I think we firmly believe. I certainly do personally, and I talk about it in these terms when I talk about it. Artificial intelligence is the most significant technological development since pre-humans learned how to use fire.
Yeah.
It's that big of a deal. And it's kind of hard to get your head around how big a deal that is. Like, so George, you're probably familiar with the concept of a general purpose technology, right?
Yeah, of course. Yeah, great.
Yeah. So it's probably easier to talk about in examples. So electricity is a great example of a general purpose technology, right? So, electricity does all kinds of wondrous, miraculous things. You can use it for lighting. You can use it to, turn motors that do work, like everything from, a car to a dishwasher, whatever. You can use it to transmit signals over space. Very, very powerful general purpose technology. It often winds its way into things and makes those things radically better as a result of it using, that general purpose capability. So
Right, but it can be applied to almost limitless solutions, right?
yeah, it's very, very broadly used, right? So, electricity is a great example. Heat engines are a great example.
Hmm. Hmm.
Everything from passenger ships to cars to planes. Artificial intelligence is that, but I think it's even more than that. So if I haven't found this in the literature yet, but I also haven't looked, so who knows, maybe it's there. But I might refer to it as a foundational technology or a primary technology. So what do I mean by that is like stone tools, our most ancient hominin pre-human ancestors learned how to make stone tools. And we're not the only animals that make tools, but we're definitely the animals that make the most use of tools for sure,
Yeah, we scaled it the most. Yeah, for sure.
right? And so stone tools were, to our knowledge, the first time you had an implement. You create an implement that allows your body to physically do something that your body could not do on its own, right? So
Hmm.
so there's this magnification of your physical capability. And then when we started using fire, we were like, okay, well, hey, whoa, I can now utilize energy that doesn't come from burning calories in the form of the food that I eat,
Right,
right?
right.
Find lots of animals that make tools. If you find an animal that uses fire, you're going to win a Nobel Prize, right?
Yeah, very good, very good.
We are the only.
No one else makes fire. Yeah,
That's it, right?
yeah,
That's a
yeah.
foundational technology, and we could talk for hours about all the things that flow from fire. I
Of
believe
course.
artificial intelligence is a foundational technology. It's like stone tools or fire. It's that big of a deal, right? So it's more than general purpose. It's a bigger deal.
Okay.
It's a bigger deal than that. So with that philosophical understanding, that's how we think about how important this technology is at our company. And so better be thinking about how you use it to do your job, better be thinking about how we use it to provide value to customers. And it has to be kind of like your first thought right now.
Right. It's the default now. Yeah.
Yeah, like I did this. I've done this way forever. How should I change it because of AI? Maybe I can't think of anything right now, but keep asking. You never know.
Yep.
All
Yep.
right. So
Imagine what it could be if the tooling was just slightly better. Yeah.
yeah, and the capability curve is growing so fast that what was outlandish 3 years ago when ChatGPT was first unleashed on the world is now normal, right?
Yeah.
Like
Yeah.
think about. I think the deep thinkers 3 years ago knew how big a deal this foundational technology was, and they could, if you're Dario Amodei or if you're, Demis Hassabis or whatever, you kind of knew how this was going to go, right?
Hmm.
But the average person didn't, and so they would look at what ChatGPT could do, say 3 years ago, and say, yeah, but it can't, and fill in the blank. Those blanks are getting filled in really fast if people
Really.
haven't noticed, right? And
Yeah.
the
Yeah.
difference in coding assist, as an example, between Thanksgiving and New Year's of this past year
Massive.
was shocking.
Yeah.
Like I've known people writing software for almost 40 years, and a lot of them very sober, very hard edged, no
Love the
bull, yeah,
craft.
yeah,
Yeah.
no,
Right.
no bullshit technologists. Like these are people that aren't easily hyped, and they're
Yep.
looking at this and going, whoa, like that.
Yeah.
This is a serious leap in capability in a very short period of time. And the point to be made, there's a few points that come from that actually. The point to be made here is that you have to be prepared not only for these leaps to take place with quite a bit of suddenness, but that they're actually probably going to not only continue but to increase in frequency,
Hmm.
which is
Yeah.
really hard to get your head around because we've never lived in a world like that, right?
That much change, that big of change, that fast.
No, I mean we have no frame of reference for that, right?
Hmm.
So and this is actually supremely challenging for people trying to be responsive business leaders because what my favorite professor told me this when I was back in college 700 years ago. That if you're a decision maker in a business that's trying to add value to the organization, you're always engaged in what he called the dual prediction process. And what he meant by that
Hmm.
was if you're looking into the future, what are your customers' needs going to be at some future point in time? Because what they are right now is kind of old news, right? Like
Sure. Yeah.
it's probably a vended market. Customers are already solving those problems with, your help
Yep.
or competitors or whatever. It's kind of the future point that is more important. And then, so you're trying to predict what that is. And then you're also trying to predict, does your organization's capabilities have the effectiveness necessary to meet that future need in a competitive way? So you're predicting
Right.
two things, right? Where's the puck going to be, and can you get there? Right?
Sure.
Is kind of the two things,
No
right?
pressure. No
Right.
pressure. Yeah.
Well,
Right.
that's normally difficult.
Yep.
Predictions are hard, but now you've got this foundational technology which is
Right.
moving at this outrageously fast speed with step changes in capability that appear seemingly at random.
Hmm.
And now, how do you make those predictions?
Yeah. No.
That's really hard.
I used to say with my team, if we look the same 2 years from now as we do today, we're on our way to being obsolete or irrelevant. And that time frame has changed to almost 6 to 9 months, right?
Yeah.
That we have to be willing and able and aware enough to adapt that quickly now for not only our organizations but even the clients that we serve. We need to prepare them to be thinking that quickly to change and adapt. And that is, like you said, that's never been. I can't think of another time in history, human history, where we've ever had to change that much that fast.
No. No. I mean, you can come up with like disaster scenarios, like
Sure.
you
Yeah.
know, the
But they were
black the
to some
black
extent they were
death,
one-off.
right?
Right. Right.
But
Right.
that's it. Like
Yeah.
you can come up with negatives, but I can't think of positives where things that were going that fast. Like even
No.
if you go back like to the 1880s when electricity, that general purpose technology, was all of a sudden just kind of exploding, right? Like
Right.
you had you had electric lighting and electric motors, and both of those things pretty quickly transformed how you could build in cities, right?
Right.
Like as an example, most people don't know that before the elevator, buildings kind of topped out at about 4 floors mostly,
Yeah, we
right?
don't go much higher. We don't like to
Right?
climb a lot of stairs. Yeah. Right.
Yeah, and then all of a sudden it was like, well, wait a minute, we can actually make them 40 stories and it's no big deal because we've
Right.
got this thing called
Right.
an elevator and electric lighting and blah blah blah. Well, that changed how you built things,
Hmm.
but it didn't change the city itself that fast because
Right.
you actually had to build new things, right?
The infrastructure took time.
Yeah, this is different. So
Hmm.
we have put computing technology and sensors and network connections in just about everything, right?
Hmm. Yep.
And the speed with which these capabilities can extend to parts of that network's periphery are kind of shocking, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
So, smartphones are the biggest example. These general purpose, pretty powerful computers that we've always got with us.
There's about edge computing and a lot of other examples.
oh yeah, yeah, and so those edge devices tend to be more specialized, maybe a little harder to change. But the fact is that they can still change pretty quick. Like if you've got let's say that let's make up an example. You got a vending machine, and the vending machine's got some sort of main computer in it, and the very large majority of the vending machine's value is not that. It's the motors and the gadgets and the things that do or don't handle coins or take payment or whatever. And the little computer thing in there is just not that much of the overall
Right.
the overall thing's cost. So if you can transform how that thing works by changing that component out, you're going to do that, and that can happen relatively quickly. So, and that's the world we're living in.